Social entrepreneurs tend to be the first responders in times of crisis. In Malaysia, during the first movement control order, we saw the crucial role of social enterprises in supporting frontliners and welfare agencies to help the needy. Here with us today is Ms. Dzuleira Abu Bakar, CEO of Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Centre, or MAGIC, to discuss the role of social enterprises in our fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira, for making the time to talk to us. Now, as we are well aware, social enterprises have been one of the backbones in helping Malaysia fight through the COVID-19 pandemic, with many organizations rushing to support the needy, as we've seen during the first MCO till present day. Now that we are already in our second MCO, what sort of lessons can social enterprises take from the first MCO to better prepare themselves?
Hi, Farhana. So as far as the social enterprise is concerned, as you rightly mentioned, when the pandemic hit us last year, especially at the peak of it in March and April last year, they were the first groups that sort of rushed to the help, right? To help the needy, to help those that were badly affected by the pandemic. I think the society or we were all in a state of shock at that time, right? So I think and the business model that the SE proved to have sort of showed that they were very resilient from the get-go, right? It was a business model that was quickly turned around to support the community at that time. It was the SEs that were quick in that sense, to provide PPEs, to provide food support, to provide aid, to provide even all sorts of support to those that were badly hit by the pandemic. Resilience aside, I think they were quick enough to change their business model, right? From actually providing services from on a physical manner. These SEs moved online, right? And I think besides just moving online, it's also changing the way that they actually reach their community. Because with a lockdown, with a strict lockdown that happened last year, it was very hard to reach to your community. So you needed to actually strategize. How do you actually reach the community that you are already servicing, right? That you're already targeting. So various means and various ways were actually thought about. So I think what was also interesting is these SEs also worked with community partners, right? In every area that they wanted to support or they're looking to support, they worked with partners. So that's a very important element to actually providing access to these services that's provided by these social enterprises.
Okay, those sure are lessons that span across businesses that we can all learn from. Now, social enterprises face the same challenges as any other businesses. Many still struggle to stay afloat as revenue streams dry up due to the pandemic. So you've mentioned some before, but what sort of changes have they made to adapt to stay afloat, to adapt to stay in business? Do they have to change their business model? Is there any support from the government?
So as you rightly mentioned, SEs are no different from any other business. The sort of objective of the SEs is to help the community. So they have a business model that is very community driven. But at the end of the day, it is still a business model, and SEs need to be sustainable. And in the wake of a pandemic, all businesses were equally affected, and SEs were not left out of it. The cash flow was definitely an issue. They were not able to generate revenue to sustain operations, and when you cannot sustain your operations, you cannot deliver social good, right? You cannot deliver that impact to your target beneficiary. So I think, as I mentioned, just like any other business, because they were badly impacted, and again, because the business model is slightly unique from your conventional business, which is based on a revenue and profit model from the get-go, SEs were finding it a little bit more harder to generate support, right? Generate support in terms of cash flow to operate. And I think the good thing is that there were a lot of people who came forward to help these SEs to continue to deliver their good work. So we had a lot of donors that came forward. We had a lot of corporates and as well as government assistance that was given to help SEs continue to operate. And on that same line, I think we also had several initiatives that was announced by the government. I think the largest initiative under for SEs in particular was under the Penjana initiative, which was announced, if I'm not mistaken, July or August last year. So I think the Penjana initiative, it was a brilliant initiative of providing matching grants to SEs that are delivering impact. Right, so there were five key areas, actually, five key areas that Penjana focused on. We focused on there were five key areas that Penjana focused on, and it was a matching grant that was actually managed by Magic. Yeah, so we had areas like community livelihood, food security, health and social well-being, environmental protection, as well as heritage preservation. It's a grant as little as 5,000 up to an amount of 500,000. It's a matching grant, so if you bring in $1, you get $1 from the government. Yeah. And that proved to be very helpful for the SEs to actually help them with their cash flow, right? Their operating expenses, to pay salaries, to actually be able to actually continue to operate as normal. Yeah. Whilst it was helpful, but it didn't completely alleviate the issues, right, as far as cash flow is concerned. And I think they continue to struggle, but in spite of the struggle, they have continued to show traction and they have continued their business model. So I think that's really the aspects of the SEs that we really applaud. Yeah. So this is where we say that how do social enterprises scale their impact further beyond what they're currently doing, is where you need to look at the use of technology and innovation, right? I think this is the time never before that we've seen the use of technology and innovation so widely used, right? Prior to this, we all speak about, oh, you need to incorporate technology, you need to be more innovative in your business model. But I think it's really a hard reset. Yeah, this pandemic is really a hard reset where you actually need to go back and look at your business model and see how do you actually incorporate technology, because without technology and innovation, your business model no longer works. The social impact realm is rather large in that sense. But how do we generate social innovation? And social innovation is where you're actually bringing that impact to a scale. Yeah.
Understand. All right. So I agree. Social innovations is definitely important in order for businesses, especially in the digital age, to stay afloat. Now, with the rising cases of COVID-19 daily now, the end is a bit uncertain for all of us. What sort of mindset? We talked about mindset a little bit just now, but if you could elaborate further, what sort of mindset do you think social entrepreneurs need to have in the face of a prolonged crisis?
The truth is that it wasn't a one-off, right? We're seeing the whole situation come back again. We are now in a situation where we are in a second lockdown, so to speak, and there is no guarantee that this situation will not prolong or it will not happen again. And we are probably in a state where we will see future pandemics come, right? Come and go, and this is an eventual phenomenon. But how do you deal with this? I think the MCO gave us that sort of a test bed. And in order to do this, I think there's no two ways about it. You have to be technology first, right? You may not be a technology company, but you need to be technology first in terms of the tools that you use, in terms of the infrastructure that is built within your entity, and in terms of the reach that you're looking at. It has to be technology first. You need to have that innovative mindset, right? And what is innovation? Ultimately, innovation is really about improving the things, the ways of how things have been done in the past, right? It's just looking at ways to improve. It's looking at new ways of doing things. It's looking at all the possible new avenues. Yeah, that's really innovation altogether. And whilst innovation is a way of doing things, technology is a tool. right? So you need to incorporate technology in your business. And again, it could be harder for some um, to actually incorporate technology quickly, because you also need to do a business model assessment, right? You need to know which part of your technology needs to be automated, needs to be digitalized, or needs to be incorporated into where technology can actually help. Yeah. So there are a lot of assistance out there. For example, to help you assess this, and we at Magic, we do that as well. We want to incorporate that mindset into the business owners. Yeah.
That's definitely a good mindset to have. And, hopefully, like they say, better days are ahead.
Yeah.
So moving on to our last question. Uh, we've seen some of the impacts of COVID-19, especially in increasing inequalities that we already have in our society. So moving forward, how do social enterprise play a role in narrowing the gap in inequalities and aiding in quicker social and economic recovery?
So the means of doing good incorporates a business model, and businesses is a means to actually reducing inequality. And I say that loosely because business models actually generate multiple impact. It's a multiplier in itself, because it generates income, it generates employment, and it generates an opportunity to actually better lives of the people around us, right? So that in itself, from an incremental level, actually can reduce inequality. The more incomes we generate, the more jobs we generate for the people in employment, the closer we get to actually narrowing the gap of inequality. Of course, I think inequality is a big area, is a wide topic of discussion. But I think if you're looking at it from a business perspective, I think there is no doubt that businesses have a role. In fact, I think it's a very vital role in reducing inequality, right? So the more businesses we have out there, the more jobs we have out there. So the focus really should be towards business continuity. How do we keep our businesses afloat? How do we continue to allow businesses to operate so they can actually deliver this? So in terms of a social enterprise, it's a double whammy in that sense. So they're not only doing good for their target beneficiary, the byproduct of doing good is that they are generating income and employment through that process of doing good. So I think in that sense, the social enterprise model is a perfect way to actually reduce inequality. However, we perhaps don't have the scale currently. We probably need more social enterprise to actually narrow the gap quicker. So that's the challenge that I think we currently have in this country. The model of business, social enterprises are just what we need, but we just don't have enough. We don't have enough, and we don't have those that can scale large enough to generate impact in a wider area, or a number for that matter, right? So we need more. We definitely need more.
Thank you, Ms. Dzuleira, for making the time to talk to us and for your wonderful insights. Hopefully, social entrepreneurs can take lesson from this and stay motivated to fight through this COVID-19 pandemic together with us. Thank you so much.